Hi, it's Cathy with City Farmhouse Studio. Today I would love to talk to you about the Lovely Day sweater. It is a knit sweater with detailed edgings around the sleeve cuffs, the bottom hem, and along the neckline. The edging does have a cable. They are all made separately, and then you pick up for either the body or the sleeve, and you work up. So this sweater is a bottom-up sweater. Links to the pattern locations are found in the description below. For the yarn, I've used the premium yarn Knit and Crochet K&C yarn. It is from Joann's. I used the Essential 100% cotton, 180 yards, 3.5 ounces, 165 meters to 100 grams. It is a category 3 light. The colorway that I used is Rainforest, and I've gotten so many compliments off this color. It is a nice, very pretty color, but it's not super intense, not so chromatic that even someone like me that usually wears neutrals, I really enjoy this color. So for the pattern, besides the yarn, you will need your size 6 needles. You will also need a stitch holder for when we do the cables. And how you hold the stitches, that is up to you. The sweater pattern has you make all the edgings first, so I'll show you how to do that. I enjoy casting on as a long tail cast on, since the starting and ending edges will be seamed into either your around the side seams of the body or for the sleeve cuff, hem, or even a hem at the neckline to sew it all together. So none of the foundation stitches are going to be visible. You can cast on your preferred method. So there I've casted on 14 stitches. Looking at the pattern for the edging, you're going to start at the bottom row of the chart and work up. And since this is a right side row, I am going to start reading from the right edge, moving towards the left. So I can look and see that the first 2 stitches are a knit stitch. So I'll just knit the first 3. The black dot means on the right side of the fabric it's going to be a purl. And then I have 3 more knit stitches. And then a purl. And then I'll knit to the end of the row. So now I'm on to row 2. Now on the purl side, or the wrong side of the work, you can go ahead and purl this stitch, but this one side of the edge is what's going to be visible at the bottom edge. So I'm just going to slip that first stitch off so that I have a nice clean edge. It helps maintain the wonky stitches when you turn. So I'm just going to slip that one. Purled across to where I need to knit. Purl 3 more. Knit that 1 stitch. That will be a purl row, column. And then I'm going to knit all the way across to the end. Now you can go ahead and slip this first stitch to control your gauge to make it nice and pretty, but I'm going to be seaming it and picking up stitches. So I'm not going to worry too much about how it looks. So I'd rather have as many spots to pick up in than worry about my gauge, it being a pretty stitch. Now I am on the 3rd row, so I have the 3 stitches and the 1 knit, and this is where you come to where you're going to make your cable. So you're going to take your needle that you hold your stitches on and bring that 1 stitch up in front of the work. I'm going to knit the next 2 stitches on the original needle. Now, try not to lose any stitches. Go to that first held stitch, knit into that, slide that off, and that's my cable. Now I have my 1 purl stitch. I'm going to knit 2, and here's where you start kind of a mock rib look. So I'm going to purl 3, and then knit my last stitch. Turn my work. So again, you can either purl this row, this stitch. I'm just going to slip it. Since I have my mock ribbing, I'm going to knit the 3 so that it'll appear purled on the right side of the work, and then purl 2, knit the 1 for the purl column, purl the 3 stitches that were in the cable section, knit the 1, purl 3. And that is your pattern repeat. So now I'm just going to start back over where you knit the first 3 stitches, purl 1, knit 3, purl 1, and knit to the end of the row. Well, got me off guard because I got to the mock purl, and those you're going to purl, you're going to knit instead of purl. My work, slip, purl, to the column, 3 cables, other column, and then the 3 last stitches. So now I'm back to the row that has the cables. So again, knit 3, purl 1, transfer 1, knit 2, knit the 1 that's being held, purl the 1 stitch, knit 2, purl 3, and then knit your last edge stitch. And then the last row of the repeat, I'm going to slip, purl these, or excuse me, knit them so they would be purls on the other side of the fabric. Purl 2, knit 1, purl 3 where the cable is, knit 1, and then purl the remaining 3. And there you can start to see the pattern repeat from the cables. You keep on working this for the specified number of repeats, and however many rows. I give you both so you can count. Here's the mock edging for the mock rib, and then this last row of knit stitches, that's where we're going to start picking up for our body stockinette portions of our sweater. So once you get your final amount, you will need to cast off. And what I do is you knit 1, 2, and then pass the first stitch over the second one main, knit 1 more, pass that stitch over. And you continue doing that. Until you got to the end, and there you go. So this edge stitch will be inside seam, so you will not see that. So once you have your edging complete, you're going to want to pick up and work upwards for your front or back panel. They're both worked very identically from the edging up to where you come in for the Armscye, and then a few rows to get some depth. On the front, you will then start decreasing for your neckline. On the back, you continue working straight. And then once you get to the top part of your shoulders, you start decreasing on both the front and the back for a nice little shoulder slope that helps to fit around your shoulders. So let's show you on the front because that has most of the shaping. So to begin, you're going to take your yarn, and I always like to start with a little slip knot just to help anchor it. And you're going to want to start picking up loops along this row of stitches on the very end where you had the 3 rows of plain. So remember, this is the right side of the fabric of the chart, the mock rib, and then the 3 rows. So that 1 row on the very edge, you're going to start picking up stitches kind of in that space between the 2 columns of stitches. Now, you're going to want to be able to knit this next row. So we're going to start at the left side of the fabric and going from the front side into the back. So I have the 2 stitches. I'm going to pick up a stitch. And I'm going to go into the next set and pick up another stitch. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm going to do this where it's kind of backwards. But you just keep going one by one. and picking up stitches. Now, the full edging is going to have between 4 to 8 stitches spaces more than what you need to pick up depending on your sizes. So just kind of mark every now and then where you need to pick up or skip over one of these spaces so that in the end you will have the right number of stitches on your needles. So I'm going to just keep on going all the way down until I have my needles, my stitches on my needles. So once you have all your stitches picked up, you're going to knit the number of rows that it specifies in your pattern. Okay, so once you've picked up and knit your few rows of stockinette, again with the right side facing you, you're ready to begin your armscye. And your armscye is what comes under your arms and starts that curve from the underarm decrease and goes up towards the shoulder. So we're going to make decreases on both the right and the left side of the garment. And to do that, you're going to begin with some bind offs on this first edge. So I'm going to knit the first 2 stitches and then pass the first knit stitch over the second, and that's 1 stitch bound off. Knit 1 more, pass it over, and that's 2 stitches bound off. Depending on your size, you will go all the way up to 5. But then once you have all of them bound off, you're going to knit across till 2 stitches remains. So there's my 2 stitches that remain, and I want to start my decrease on this side as well. I want to decrease on every row so that I get a nice smooth decrease curve and not a stair-steppy one that I gotta fiddle with as I'm sewing the sleeves in. So for this side, I just do a simple knit 2 together. Then you turn your work. Now I want to do the same exact stitch bind off number on this edge of the work. So you're going to start with your purls. So purl 2 stitches, and then I'm going to bind that first stitch off by passing it over, purl 1 more stitch, and then pass that one over. And then you're going to purl till 2 stitches remain on this row. Alright, so now I have my 2 stitches left. I want to decrease that one on this edge, and to do that is a slip, slip, purl. So I'm going to slip both of my stitches on to my right needle as a knit stitch, transfer them back onto my left needle, not switching them. Now I'm going to come back behind through both of them as if to purl, and purl both of those together. And there we are back on our knit row. And there you can start to see the nice smooth edge of our decreases that our sleeve will start to be sewn into. Now once you do the first decrease, you're going to be doing the second decrease, which is very similar, just changes the number of bind offs. And then on the third decrease, it says to decrease 1 stitch with either a slip, slip, knit or purl 2 together. And that's because you repeat this 1 row multiple times. So I am now on a knit row, so I'm going to slip, slip, and then knit those 2 together to make a decrease. Work my way over until there's 2 stitches remaining. So my 2 stitches And now I'm just going to knit those two together. Turn my work, and now I'm going to repeat that row, but since it's a purl row, instead of the slip slip knit, I'm going to start out with the purl two together, purl till 2 stitches remain. So there's my 2 stitches that remain. You need to slip slip purl, so slip them both onto my right needle as if to knit. Transfer them back onto my left needle, same orientation as they were without twisting them. Go in from the back of the second loop all the way up through the first one that you took off, and then purl those 2 stitches together. So you repeat that section for your number of times, and then size medium through 5X is going to again decrease on both sides, but then work one solid row of purl, and that just gets a little bit more length for them that the small and extra small don't need. Everyone will then work a set number of rows in stockinette, and that will get from this curved edge to the bottom of the neckline where the collar band will come in. So for the neckline, you will begin by knitting the first half of the right side. And then you're going to want to take these off onto a stitch holder or another length of yarn or something that will hold these so that you can pick them up and work at them at a later time. Okay, so there you can see I've just transferred my stitches onto a piece of waste yarn just to hold through. And now I'm ready to purl this next side of the stitches, and these are out of my way. So the next line of the pattern says to bind off the first 2 stitches. So again, just as before, we will purl the first 2 stitches, pass one over, purl another one, and pass that stitch over. And then we are going to purl the remainder of the row. For the second neck decrease, again, you're going to knit the row until 2 stitches remain. And then you will knit those 2 together. And that again gives you that nice smooth decrease edge so that whenever you're attaching on your sweater collar, it's a nice smooth edge you're working against. So that is all the stitches you need to know for the neckline decrease on this side. The next section of the pattern after you do all of your neckline decreases is to start decreasing on this edge of the shoulder, and that gives you a nice sloped edge. And now we'll pick up these stitches again, and we'll want to pick them up from this edge onwards so that our next row that we work will be a purl. Okay, so I have the stitches back onto my left needle, orientated properly front to back. And then I'm going to, since we had to cut our yarn with a new strand, take it and start to purl the row. Now we're ready to knit, and we're at the inside edge of the neckline. I'm going to repeat that first bind off of 2 stitches. So just as before, I'll knit the first 2, pass the first over, knit one more, Pass that one over. So that's my second bind off. The other sizes will bind off 3. And then knit to the end of the row. So now we're at the second neck decrease section. So we'll purl till 2 stitches remain. And then we will again make that single decrease with a slip, and transfer those back on so that we can purl those 2 off together in 1 stitch. And there you can see how you're starting to make that decrease bind off. Now, one of the first things you're going to notice is this split right here between the 2 sides. When you attach your collar on, you will be seaming along this line of bind offs. And in doing so, you can bring those 2 stitches together and you will not notice that's opening. So don't stress about it. The second decrease section, you would first be binding off these 2 stitches and then knitting the rest of the row, purling back, doing another slip purl. And then for your third neck decrease, you will be doing a slip, put your needle through both stitches, not split the yarn, which I keep doing, and knit those 2 off for a single decrease, and knit the row over. So it's exactly as the first side. The only difference is the change of stitches used to get the slopes going the other direction. So once we finish that decrease section, we're going to be ready to begin the shoulder slant on this left edge of the garment. We're on a purl row, so depending on your size, you're going to bind off 2, or if you're just doing 1 decrease, you will purl 2 together. And then you purl the remainder of the row. And then we will knit this row until 2 stitches remain. Knit those 2 together. And there you can start to see that nice smooth decrease edge. Once you do all those repeats, you will bind off on a purl side. So again, you purl the first 2 stitches, pass it over, and there you have all the steps you need to make your front and back panels along with your edgings. The back is exactly the same up through the armscye. You do not do any of this neckline shaping. And for the shoulder decreases, you will work both sides consistently. So it's very similar to what you did with your armscye. Once you have your front and your back completed, you will seam up your shoulders, and then your collar edging will fit along here. Because the collar edging is this thickness, and it goes from the narrow width of your neck to this larger width of your sweater, it will appear smaller than the length around your neckline. It will stretch and pull in at the same time some of the neck stitches, and then the collar edging will stretch out to make up that difference. So you still have a nice laying collar edging that doesn't stand up straight on your neck, but lays more down around your collarbones and neck. All right, so once you have your front and back done, let's work on the sleeves. So the sleeve begins very similar to your front and back body in that you pick up along the edge of your edging, and then you knit in stockinette so many rows. Usually it's about 2, some rows are 6, some are 3, and some are 4. And now for the sleeve, we're going to want to work at increases on both sides of the sweater. And to do this, you either need right leaning increases or left leaning increases. And I'll show you how to do those in both the knit stitch and then also on purls, because depending on your size and which repeat you're on, you may need to know both of them. So for the right leaning increases, when you're on a knit side stitch, you're going to knit 1, and then you want to increase 1 stitch with this right leaning increase. So the stitch that's next, the loop of the stitch on the row previous, you're going to want to pick up and place on your needle. You knit into that stitch to increase, and then you knit into that one on the side. Fit straight up. And that is your increase of 1 stitch. Now we want to do that on the left side, so we will knit until 2 stitches remain. All right, so 2 stitches remain, and we want to do a left leaning increase, so the increases go that way off our fabric. Now how the right side we work before the stitch. The left side we want to make our stitch, and then we go not into the stitch, and we want to lift up the stitch that isn't the stitch we just worked, but the stitch below that. So it's similar to the stitch position that we lifted up on the right leaning. So it almost feels like it's 2 rows below, but in fact it's only that 1 row. We've just already completed that 1 stitch of that column. So that's our increase, and then you knit your last stitch. So once you finish your increases, the pattern's going to tell you to work in stockinette another additional so many rows. So I'm going to work 2 rows so that I can show you how to do a left leaning purl increase and a right leaning purl increase. So that was how you increase. You can see the increase on this left edge, and you can see the increase on the right edge. That was done on the knit side of the fabric. Now, depending on your size and the rows, you'll need to know what to do for the purl side when you need to increase. It's very similar. You will purl that first stitch. Just like before, go to that loop of the stitch below the next stitch on your left needle and place that up. Purl into that. Purl into the loop that is of the row, that column, and then purl until 2 stitches remain. So now 2 stitches remain, and just like before on the left leaning increase knit side, for the purl we want to go ahead and purl that first stitch, and then look down and pick up not the stitch that we just worked into, but the one below. And we want to make a purl into that stitch, and that is our increase stitch, and then purl the last remaining stitch. And then again, you work your number of stockinette rows. So you can see the increases look very similar to the knit side on the left, and then the knit side. So you'll continue repeating these rows and the increases until you have your set number of sleeve stitches that you need to make the width of your sleeve. Then you'll start binding off on each end, very similar to your armscye, to get it to curve around your arm to fit into the armhole, and then a knit portion, and then more decreases on both sides to get up to that sleeve cap. All of those bind offs, all of those stitches are very similar to what you've already done on the front panel and also on the back panel, especially on that shoulder shaping area. So I know you are very capable of doing it. And there you have all the stitches you need to make the Lovely Day sweater. I hope you have enjoyed this sweater as much as I have and get as many compliments as I do when I wear it. Please be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss out on any other great knitting videos from City Farmhouse Studio. Thanks. Bye.